Hi, I'm going to talk to you about generating a web service using Jumpstart. So what I have here is Visual Designer, which is our tool that Profound has for generating screens that will run in a user's browser. And this screen is just going to be a simple interface where we have a chart and an exit button, and this chart, like many of our other widgets, can have data populated to it in many different ways. So for example, you can specify a database file and some names and value. You can pick fields in the file to populate the names and the values, or you can specify hard code the names and values in here. For some reason, if you wanted to do that, those will be saved with the display file itself. You can also have, if you specify either of these two properties and bind them, then you can have, in this case, your RPG program generate the data. So all that logic for generating the XML and reading from the file and then parsing or outputting the correct text, you'd have to do that in your RPG program. But there are other options, and that would be to let a web service handle it. So if for some reason you didn't want your RPG program to handle the logic, you could specify a web service. So what I have in this file is I've got a partial URL for a universal display file, which is another technology that we have. But anyway, this is going to be a web service. So in our web service, we're going to have some labels and values. So we're going to use Jumpstart to generate that. So I've got Jumpstart pulled up here. I click on web service, and our universal display files are RPGs. So with web service, you have to specify RPG as the language, and there are several templates that we have shipped for web services already. So we will pick the chart data JSON to match that we are doing a URL web service for that widget, for the chart. I specify my library already, and I'm going to specify a file here, and now I get a listing of fields. So a chart only has labels and values, so we don't need all the fields in the database selected. So we're going to select two fields, the name and the stock in this case. So I want this to be my label and this to be my value. So you might be wondering, with JSON, there's the order that you specified could matter. So if my stock were first and my name, how do I specify that, like which field is the label and which is the value? Because right now Jumpstart just sees a bunch of fields and it doesn't know which is which. So you sort of have to remember with the JSON, the field that you pick first, like you saw that I could drag this around. So like name is first now, stock is second. So the one that I pick first is going to be the label, and the second one is going to be the value. So if you can't remember that, that's okay. We can just go ahead and generate it, and then look in the generated universal display file and see if what I picked. Let's go ahead and I'm going to drag this back here just to demonstrate. I'll go ahead and put in some information here. This is going to be where the generated display file, the name of the display file itself compiled, and then the RPG program compiled is going to have that name, and it's also generating some source members. So generate, and it'll click generate it, and it'll take a couple seconds, and then it's done. We'll talk about this message here in a minute, but first let's pull up the generated source member. So Jumpstart 001D, and this is the universal display editor, which is our universal technology that lets you generate text-based outputs rather than user interfaces. So in this case, we've got some JSON. This record format's going to get output, and then for each record, we're going to have like this text get output. Okay, so you see what was generated. We've got label as stock and value as name. That's the opposite of what I wanted. So we can go back here and reorder the fields, and then we'll get the order that I want. Take a couple seconds. let's reopen the file and look, and we see, okay, label is name, value is doc, so the number is going into the value. That's what we want. Okay, so with universal display files, we get this message here. It says to configure it for a web connector, modify the PUI map file. So what that's talking about, the web connector, is a way for Profound UI with universal display files to know like that this URL goes to a certain program. So MD demo chart URL, I just specified anything here that I decided. Like, how does Profound UI know what program maps to that? As you can see here, I didn't specify MD chart demo URL, MD demo chart URL. I just specified a program name and a display file name. So how does it map it? There's a physical file, PUI map P. So that's actually in your Profound UI instance. So in the library of your installation, it's called PUI map P. And so if you installed Profound UI into the Profound UI library, you would look there for PUI map P physical file. And I've got a Jumpstart generated program to edit that file right now. I'm going to pull it up. I'm going to pull up the record that I have in there. So as you can see, I've got my library, and I've got the program name that I specified here in Jumpstart. And then I've got this portion of the URL that I specified here in my chart URL. So anytime Profound UI sees Profound UI /universal/ anything, it's going to look in the PUI map file and and if there's an entry for it, it's going to use whatever is in that entry. So that's all there is to getting this demo to work. So I'm going to go ahead and pull it up. Video 1R and then now I have a chart. This is a display file that uses the regular rich display. An RPG program is right in the background, and then this chart is calling a URL, which is getting data from a universal display file program, which is an RPG program driving this text-based data. So that's all there is to it. With Jumpstart, you have a few different options you can use to generate. You can do grid and autocomplete and also the XML, and that's all there is to it. So thanks for watching.